Hi and welcome to another Art of Life's Explorations. I'm Angela Hardy from Cloud9. It's so good to have you with us today. Today, we're going to talk to somebody really, really interesting. I met Chris when he came to float at Cloud9 at my float center. And we got into this discussion about plant medicines. And I have been fascinated with plant medicines for ages. I've been reading quite a lot about it and how it works to create new thoughts, new thought patterns in the mind, how amazing it can be for healing, how amazing it can be for spiritual development, just the kinds of amazing things that can happen with these medicines. And so I thought it'd be really amazing to invite Chris to talk to us today all about that, all about plant medicines, his own journey with them, how they work, what they can do for you. So we can play a little with that idea. How do plant medicines work and what can we do about it? So let me see if I can get out of the solo. There we go. This is Chris. Welcome, Chris. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello.
Hello. I hope that Chris's internet connection is going to stand up to this. He seems a little bit hesitant, but if it's a pain, we'll just go off and do it another day. In the meantime, Chris, won't you tell us a little bit more about plant medicines, what they are, and then also your personal journey of how you got into this and, you know, how your life brought you to this place where you practice with these medicines?
Okay, I guess, a lot of people that go through a lot of traumas and things, a lot of people, I hear quite often that's childhood trauma coming up, but when it comes to me, I think I had a pretty good childhood. I can't say that I went through anything seriously traumatic. But yet I still found myself going down some pretty dark paths. And, like when I was growing up, my parents were very religious, very Christian. And we were at school, and church was a regular thing for our family. So when I got to about 16, my parents gave me the option whether I can choose whether to go to church or not. And at that stage of my life, I was very anti-establishment and found everything negative to do with organization and money, and a large part of that pushed me away from church and from religion and from spirituality. And I guess I was a bit of a partier in my younger days, and drinking and drugs sort of escalates and carries on, and for a while I got into Scientology for a bit, looking for answers, but I sort of learned very quickly that money is a huge thing when it comes to that. And then I learned about, in my party days, we did things like acid and mushrooms, but always in a party setting, always at a festival, always at a house party or a club, or always a social environment. And then there's not a lot of real healing that can happen in those sort of spaces. And then I got addicted to some of the harder drugs, and then I was at a music festival, and I'd read about DMT, and I watched some people's experiences on YouTube, and it was the last place that I expected to find it. But I was speaking to someone at the festival, and they said, "Oh yeah, changa. My boyfriend makes changa. I'll give you some." At that time in my life, I was like, "Yeah, free drugs. I'm not going to say no to that." And then I met this guy, this dodgy-looking guy, bald head, long beard, tattoos to his knuckles, at some garage, and he gave me the stuff, and be by yourself in a dark room and give it a try. My wife at the time, she as soon as I told her about it, she was quickly onto googling it. And after spending some time researching it, she came back and said, "Look, I can't find anything negative about this." And I was like, "Okay, well, let me give it a try." And it completely. I'd been in psychedelics before, but I'd never had that experience, that huge connectedness. That's real. I guess before that point, I wasn't aware of my chakras. I wasn't aware of alignments. I wasn't aware of spirits or energies, or I was I'd known of them, but I couldn't feel anything. And then that moment, just kind of my life seems to be divided into before that moment and after that moment. And then ever since then, my life has taken a very different path. And sometimes change can be a difficult thing to move through. And psychedelics have a way of rewiring your brain to get you to think differently and to heal the traumas that you thought didn't affect you too much, you know. And then that was a profound experience. But then it was the other medicines that really shifted me in other ways. For the most part, the DMT didn't eradicate any of my addictions. It just sort of opened up my mind to possibilities, and then that led me to ayahuasca. And then with ayahuasca, ayahuasca is a way. And now all these changa is the smokable version of DMT, but ayahuasca is the brew that you drink. And
Same molecule?
ayahuasca is your same molecule, yes. But with ayahuasca, it's a combination of two plants added to one another. The one has the DMT in it, and the other one is it has the chemicals that block the enzyme in your stomach that stops DMT from being absorbed into your body. And it's also a much longer experience. With DMT that you smoke, the experience is about no longer than 15 minutes. But with ayahuasca, it's about a 5-hour ceremony, and you drink multiple times, and there's purging or vomiting involved, and it's definitely, I realized very early on that there's a huge difference between ceremony and recreational drug taking. With ceremony, there's intention and there's guidance, and it makes a huge difference in tackling real problems. With ayahuasca, though, she's seen as the sacred mother, the guide world, mother of earth. And she, out of all the medicines, she's definitely the one that has a huge effect on your life pre and post ceremony. And there were a few scenarios that played out before and after my first ayahuasca ceremony that had nothing to do with the ceremony itself, but I can't help but think that they were related, And for my first ayahuasca ceremony, I made the choice to give up alcohol. And when you're at a certain age and you have a certain circle of friends, it's kind of social suicide to do that, I lost a lot of friends along the way that, just if you stop drinking, then you can't relate to them more.
Yeah.
But they hung on to that thing, that connection. And there were a few scenarios that played out that were, hugely transformative for me. And then after that, coming to terms with the decision of, okay, I still want to be social, I still want to be friendly with these people, and then you try to find other ways like alcohol-free drinks to try and just, especially as a man and as guys, there's a camaraderie when it comes to two guys having a beer together, and the sound of the beer bottle opening and the clink and cheersing and things like that. And once those things, something like alcohol-free beer, when Castle Free came out, it was a godsend. It really happened at around that same time. So it was perfect timing. And then, but still with ayahuasca, I'd fasted for the week. beforehand, and at the subsequent ceremonies, I made a point to be clean and pure. It eradicate my more hardcore drug addictions. They were still prevalent in my life until I decided to do a mushroom ceremony. And I had quite a bit of experience with magic mushrooms beforehand. I'd gone into the bush by myself once before and done like a little private ceremony, but I wasn't guided or anything like that. And I decided I was going to have a big dose just to see what it was like. And it was my very first mushroom ceremony, and it by far changed my life the most. It was. I tell you, it really was difficult. It was by far the most difficult thing that I've ever done.
Really?
I did 5 grams of psilocybin basis, or golden teachers they called, and it was.
Hero Dost, right?
It was.
They call it the Hero Dost, isn't it? 5 grams. It's like that's a lot.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was quite a bit, and I definitely wasn't prepared, or as I should have been, because it was quite traumatic. It wasn't easy. It was there was a lot of fear and anxiety and confusion, and it was definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done. But there were addictions to 3 different things that were eradicated from me at that point. And it seems to have lasted. And I think it was such a change to my the chemical makeup in my brain that it forced me to reevaluate my circle of friends, and reevaluate my habits, and reevaluate my sets and settings for everything that I participate in. And I realized at that point how healing these medicines can be. And it also really outlined to me how nature loves courage. It really does. If you can find the courage in yourself to confront something that's really difficult and really hard, nature has a way of benefiting you, and benefiting from that experience. From that point, I decided to, as best I can, share that healing, and as best I can encourage, if not guide, as many people as I can to have that same level of healing, because it really has transformed my life immensely. And I only wish that healing on everyone, because no one really, trauma is difficult, and pain is really difficult, and everyone has something that really sit with and really fully give the attention to it that it needed, so that it can stop having a negative effect on your life, and on your decisions, and on your thinking. And once you find the courage to step through the veil and see what's on the other side. I mean, once it's much like skydiving. Like in skydiving, I only went skydiving, I did a static line jump, and it was a whole day of anxiety and preparation leading up to that point, and it leads up to one moment where you have to let go of the plane. They're not allowed to kick you out. You must find the courage in yourself to leap out of that plane. And the amount of anxiety leading up to it. I mean, there was a girl just sitting. I was going first, and she was right behind me. And I was trying to calm her down on the way up, saying things like, we've done all this training, and you could, it's fairly safe. I mean, you could close your eyes the whole time, and I'm pretty sure you'd manage. And once I took that leap, you have these moments in the air. As you leap out the plane, you're like, that's it, I'm dead. All this training goes straight out the window. You're pretty much like, okay, I've just left to my death. And then when the parachute opens, and there's all of this, you have no perception that you're falling. You're just just floating in the air. And once you hit the ground, the feelings that you have are just so overwhelming. You realize that if you knew that was what it was going to be like, there would be no anxiety. There would be no fear leading up to that moment. And it's so true of all things in life. Once you've, the fear of the unknown is a big thing. Because, things that you don't know about, you build up this anxiety. But what plant medicines have shown me is fear of the unknown is unjustified. Because you don't know about something gives you no reason to fear it whatsoever. Sometimes people have certain experiences and, they label things dark or evil or I saw a demon and things like that. But, I try and explain to them that that's their perception. What if they're calling an angel that? What if that being is there to help them? I mean, there's nothing that anyone come across that's really, for the most part, plant medicine are fairly safe. Especially with DMT, there's a reason that it only lasts 15 minutes. There's an amino acid in your brain that it seems like the only existence for this amino acid is to eat up DMT. When you follow the research and follow the science around the purpose of DMT in the brain, I've come to my own self conclusion that DMT is lubricant for your soul to enter and exit your body. It's an unlock for you, like as if your chakras are the thing that's locking your soul into your body. And DMT is a natural unlock for all of those chakras. And when you have that experience, you're able to float outside your body into alternate dimensions. And the rewiring of your brain is when you have trauma and things, naturally the neurons are firing along scarred pathways in your brain. And when you have these deep psychedelic experiences, they have a way of remapping those neural networks, creating new unscarred healthy pathways. So that naturally, your thinking is then adjusted afterwards. Your perceptions start to change, and you start to realize, like, where there's we thought there were no problems before, that there are things that need to be addressed, and it's you realize where you need to find the courage in yourself to confront the things that need confronted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, I must say. I'm in the business of personal transformation, and I teach people how to love themselves and how to have confidence and how to have self-worth. And obviously we work with trauma and old conditioning and old belief systems and that kind of stuff. And that's why, for me, this has always been such a curious and enticing idea to engage with these plant medicines, because whereas when you are working with someone like me, there's kind of these two layers. There's the consciousness awareness layer. I'm aware that I have a problem. I'm aware that this particular thing is a problem for me. I look at it from a conscious understanding point of view to try and get a new understanding of that thing. And then I also work with the kinesiology to work inside the body somatically to rewire the unconscious mind and to change the way that you see the world and experience the world and the way that you respond and react energetically to it. And that's very effective. But the intriguing idea of plant medicine is that the brain is actually rewiring itself for you like that. And that's really exciting for me, that it can happen so quickly and such a serious rewire, because this idea, the way that the brain is working, kind of just reworking those same pathways over and over and over again. And if you want to have change, you've got to create new pathways. You've got to break down that old stuff and create a new way of thinking about how you do life and how the world works. And, there's a lot of ways to do that, but a lot of them are not that quick. And I think that what I do is amazing because it's really quick, compared to psychotherapy or anything else. But then you have got this opportunity to spend 5 minutes or 15 minutes with DMT and have a very, very quick change that's really on a very base and fundamental level that you don't necessarily even have to do anything about, or that you don't really do anything about. Although I will say that I find that when I did the DMT with you, the setting of my intention made all the difference. Because when you guys obviously if you're watching this, you may or may not have ever done this before, but when you do DMT with Chris, there's this beautiful ceremony. It's this beautiful space that he sets up. It's a very safe space, a very contained environment that he's holding for you. And then you do it twice in the evening. You do the DMT, and then you sit and you can talk and you can reflect and you can do whatever, and then you do it again. And for me, it was in the second time, where the first time was just an experience. And in the second time, where I was very specific about setting an intention, that I got some sort of feedback from that for that intention. So is that true of all plant medicines? Can you sometimes just go have an experience and see what comes up? Do you need to set an intention for it to be of value? How does it work in general?
Well, the different plant medicines that we work with, they all speak to individuals differently. So we do ayahuasca, and that's always seen as the mother and always done at night. We do San Pedro, which is the cactus, and we do it during the day. We do psilocybin, magic mushrooms, that's the night day, and then we do changa, which is the DMT. Now, with the changa, because it's very quick, it's kind of like you're being blasted with the information. For the first timers and for people that are curious, I find that for me would be the best entry point, because no matter whatever you're going through, it's 15 minutes. It's super quick. It's really a short time to dip your toe in the water. When it comes to things like ayahuasca, ayahuasca has a way of it's also DMT, but you can conversate with her somewhat. Showed me in a ayahuasca ceremony that in the beginning of the ceremony, I had this vision of sitting in front of, and there's these beings that are attacking these parts of me, putting them on a shelf. Thinking in the beginning of the, I have no idea what that's like. I don't know. Like, okay, you can take things out of me, and then from that experience, I was shot to the other side of the universe, and I was given all these amazing visuals. And I find psychedelics in general can be a bit of a show. It's a show with your eyes closed, but there's things going on in the background, And once I had this kind of experience, I got taken back to the end of that ceremony, and then all of a sudden, I remember thinking, it's the shop. I see. Here's all the parts of me, and they're like, okay, this is what's been changed. This is what's been fixed. This is what's been upgraded, and then all these parts were put back into me. And I think it's true of all these experiences. If you can find the courage to do these medicines, then it's for the most part, it can be quite entertaining and quite pleasurable. And quite healing without you even realizing what's being healed. With the ayahuasca is sort of that type of communication. When it comes to psilocybin, magic mushrooms, it's hard to describe it, but it's very alien. Like the information that you're getting is sometimes has to go through a filter of reinterpreting and so the information coming through, there's not much of a conversation that's happening. It's a view into an alternate dimension, but it's being shown to you like a movie. And then with San Pedro, with the cactus, with the masculine energy, a lot of the stuff that happens, it's very body feeling driven. So a lot of it, you get energy from it, and it's uplifting, very extremely grounding, and it's so amazing to be in nature. And also with all the other medicines, they're debilitating somewhat. When you're on magic mushrooms or you're on ayahuasca, you are macromated into the chair or the bed or wherever you are. You are somewhat disoriented and try and get up and move. But with San Pedro cactus, it gives you energy and it heightens your focus and improves your motor. So people are quite hype on it. So that's how we go for it. And also the conversation with with San Pedro is it's kind of like speaking with your father, that he doesn't let you return the conversation or the information, and he has a tendency to carry on and go on and on and on deep into the night, till eventually you're like, okay, I've heard all the information I can take. Thank you very much. And he's like, yeah, I just want to give you just one little piece. And then, with we also offer things like microdosing. And what's interesting about microdosing, like having microdosing is literally, it's the same medicine that we serve in ceremony. It's you're taking a tiny little dose every day. And that can be hugely beneficial for dream spaces, especially for things like lucid dreaming. I have one story about microdosing with San Pedro. When I was a kid, I had a flying dream, and I'm sure a lot of people have flying dreams when they're a kid.
Oh, they're so nice.
And in this flying dream, I dreamt that I was in my house when I was growing up, and I was playing in the garden, and I learned that if I ran and jumped, could become weightless, and then I could fly around. So that happened a few times, and then I flew around my neighborhood and got an aerial view of my neighborhood, and I flew around, and I remember thinking, while I'm in the air, I need to show someone. I have to show someone that I can fly. So I flew back down to my house, and I ran inside to my mom, and I said, Mom, you won't believe this. I can fly. And I said, please come to the back garden. Let me show you that I can fly. And she came to the back garden, and guess what? In my dream, I can't do it. And I remember jumping and feeling like, oh, I can't believe it. And that was my flying dream when I was a kid. And I remember growing up and really, really wanting to have another flying dream. Like I wanted nothing more than to feel that feeling again. And then when I started microdosing with San Pedro, probably about 2 weeks into the microdosing, and that's having a tiny little bit every day. You don't feel it at all on your body, or it just becomes part of your practice. And then I had my second flying dream, and in this flying dream, I was given this dial that I could literally turn up the power of being able to fly, turn it off, and I had control over this dial. That I could jump up into the air and I could manipulate this dial, and I could fly around. And not only did I come back down to the ground, I flew into there was a fest with hundreds of people, and in front of everyone, I had a big megaphone, and I said, "Everybody, I can fly." And everyone's like, yeah. And then I just lifted up in my dream, floated above, and I had full control over it. And once I had that dream, I remembered thinking about my first dream and how that's completely transformed. Like it waited my whole life until I had San Pedro microdosing, and then all of a sudden it gave me that dream back with all the control that I wanted. And for me, that was like one of the experiences of being completely in control in a lucid dream. And if you do any research or any or find out about specifically, it's huge in Silicon Valley and in the States and in Europe, is psilocybin microdosing. And some of the studies have indicated that it could be more effective than macrodosing at rewiring neural networks, which I just find fascinating,
Yeah, I've read that. And also very powerful for depression, anxiety, people who suffer in general for that kind of stuff. Apparently it's excellent for that.
I've seen people, like, not only is my life transformed, but I've seen countless people's lives transformed from these same medicines. And sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly. Everyone's different. It's hard to say that or to recommend that everyone try, because I've also come across the glaring fact that it's not for everybody. But I think the deciding factor really comes down to the courage for it. the courage to actually, seek it out and find yourself in a ceremony and, say to yourself that I'm going to do the work and surrender. In all these plant medicines, that's definitely one aspect that's rather loud, or rather prevalent, is the idea of letting go, of letting go of control. And I find there's immense healing, when it comes to meditation and things like that. Meditation can give you, or it can bring you closer to the idea of letting go and quietening the monkey mind, so to say, and focusing in on thinking of nothing, because I think there's a key to that aspect of thinking of nothing, or surrendering, that letting go of control over your life, and letting go of control over your body, and accepting, like truly deeply accepting everything that's happening. And sometimes it takes deep medicine spaces for people to come to that realization that is the key to not just their healing, because if someone heals themselves, that healing can then rub off on their people, like their friends and family and the people around them.
Yeah.
I remember that dodging guy that gave me that changa at that garage. When I'd finished the changa, I contacted him again and I said, "Hey, that the chunga's finished. Can I get some more?" And he said, "Yeah, come and get it." And I remember that, like, after the second time, I said to him, "You don't know me. You're not a friend of mine. Like, why are you just giving it to me?" And he said something very profound to me. He said, "I've only, like, changa for him has only been a positive, and it's only given him love and light, and only healed all his people around him, and wants to do is share that." And I remember thinking, that's about one of the coolest things I've ever heard. That something can be so positive for someone, and can heal them so much that they, their mission now is to heal as many people as they can. And I mean, it has a ripple effect, like, he healed me, and now I have a chance to heal as many as I can, and hopefully I can heal someone that will in turn heal people, in their lives, and together we can heal everyone. Hopefully.
That's beautiful. Yeah, hopefully, yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, any of us who work in that healing space, there's a deep sense of seeking that we start with, I think. And I don't think anybody gets into that space where they help people to find themselves in whatever form they go about it. It doesn't start off with a deep sense that they need to find themselves, that they need to heal themselves, that they're looking for something themselves, to have a better quality of life, to have a better expression of themselves, to have a more connected, a more loving, a more whole experience of themselves as a human being. And this is where we, whatever method or path we take, we're learning along the way what could work to also be available to somebody else that we can pass down the line. And it becomes our great pleasure, doesn't it, to then let somebody else learn from us what helped us so much ourselves. How important do you think? Because for me, I feel like this was possibly the most important part of my experience, but I don't know whether that's true for everybody. How important do you think interpretation of the experience when you make use of changa or any of the other plant methods? I mean, I've only ever used the changa with you, and only that one time, but I had something very specific that I was trying to achieve with it. Well, very briefly, I don't know if it's useful in this or not, but I'll tell you. I've had a problem with my breathing, and ever since they say it was whooping cough, and then I developed this kind of almost asthmatic response, but it wasn't asthma. And every now and again, I would get this tight chest and the struggle to breathe. And when I did the second changa pipe and had that experience, and I specifically went in and said, I need to know about this breathing thing, I need to heal it, or at least know how to go about healing it, because I've been working for years in many, many ways to try to get this thing sorted. And I was lying there having this very strong visual imagery and this very, very cold feeling on my body that was quite uncomfortable, and this hugely, hugely loud, very, very unpleasant sound in my ear. And then I noticed my breathing, and it was super, super slow, which probably it was moderately slow, but the time was just really extended outward. And then I came to the bottom of my breath, and I stopped breathing. And at that moment, I had noticed that I'd come to the bottom of my breath and I was no longer breathing. And my mind said to me, oh, well, there's the answer. You actually don't have to breathe at all. Ever. And I thought to myself, oh, great, perfect. And then I knew, obviously, that it wasn't true, that I never had to breathe at all, but that there was something in this message for me that I had to make sense of, or that was making sense of itself for me in some way. And then in due course, I breathed in, and I discovered that it was quite simple to breathe in and quite easy to breathe in. And then after the experience was over, I was lying there breathing very easily and very comfortably. And because I was paying attention to that particular intention, and I was trying to say, well, what is the meaning of this message? And I noticed how easy breathing was. And I almost thought to myself, I wonder if I've ever actually breathed properly before in my life. Because it turns out that breathing is very easy to do. It's kind of doing itself, if you will. And I was making sense of the meaning of it. So for me, I felt like interpretation was really important. What is the meaning of this? Because the message itself was nonsensical. Oh, well, you don't have to breathe at all. So what is the meaning of that message? And in the making sense of that message, I feel like I've then obviously practiced that experience of that really, really easy breathing, which has been very helpful for me. Is how important is interpretation? I've certainly did a lot of study and a lot of reading about these psychedelics, about mushroom experiences, about using psychedelics for healing. And those people who do it therapeutically as psychiatrists and therapists, they talk about how important it is to help that person in the process of it, before and after the experience, to have someone to talk to about the experience, to have someone to help them process the experience and make sense of the process. How important do you think it is?
I think what I've over the years of working with plant medicine, there's a glaring fact that reiterates almost every time is these medicines, the spirit of these medicines are infinitely intelligent. And sometimes your perception of whatever's going on can't get to that height of. So a lot of the messages, sometimes when they come through, you perceive them, and sometimes it doesn't make sense at all. Sometimes it's you're shown something that's you think at the time, why am I seeing that? That makes no relevance, or there's no. I mean, over time, to happen in life, and you sort of think back. I understand now why I was shown that specific thing at that specific time. I've also noticed that the more that you work with plant medicines, it knows what to show you, when to show you what you're ready to see. So, like I think about. I mean, I've done. Like Chung it's definitely non-addictive and non-dependent. So you're in no rush right after doing it to do it again. It's more often quite a shock and quite profound. But it's not something that you get a kick out of, No. So it's the gaps in between doing it can be months or years. But it knows what to show you when. So in my I've done it countless times, many years ago, on how many times that I've done it. But it's definitely become less and less. But I've noticed that some of the things that I've seen in the more the more recent experiences, if I'd seen that stuff in the beginning, it would have freaked me out. It would have been too much for me to handle, and because I had to get to a certain point, and then I wondered to myself, like, why didn't it show me that stuff in the beginning? And I realized that I wouldn't have been ready to see that stuff. And I mean, these experiences are more often than not very hard to describe. It's almost like words don't do it justice. If you're trying to recall and say, I saw this and I saw that, and I think for the most part, our perception. My normal job, my normal day-to-day job, I'm a 3D artist, so I work in 3 dimensions. And I spend all day, every day. I mean, this reality is 3 dimensions. And in the Changa space, I remember going into like while you're in the experience, I remember thinking, okay, I'm somewhere else. My perception is that I need to be in a room, so I need to see a floor, a flat floor. I need to see a wall on the side and a wall on the side and a roof, so that I'm in a room. Right. And every time I try to bring that dimensional space onto that multi-dimensional place, it would show me, but guess what? You can also see underneath the floor and around the wall and around this wall and on top of the roof, all at the same time. You can perceive all these different dimensions. And I remember that being such a shock for my brain, because how do you perceive multiple dimensions? You live your whole life, all your experience is evolved around existing in a 3-dimensional space. When you have a strong Changa experience that shows you that this reality is made up of multiple dimensions, and that your experience of 3-dimensional space has got nothing to do with the extent of reality from through multiple dimensions and through multiple spaces, that sometimes I think to myself that, my brain wasn't ready for that. My perception wasn't ready for that. It had to be shown to me in a medicine space for me to realize that my attachment to my perception needs to be released. And that's true of all thoughts. That when you try and hold on to your thoughts, when you try and hold on to your perception, it stops you from being able to experience and understand and converse and to navigate through this multiple dimensional world. That if you hold on to that perception, if I held on to my perception of those, my world can only ever be these 3 dimensions, then I wouldn't have access to all these other multiple dimensions. When there could be a lot of information that I'm neglecting, that I'm stopping from myself from attaining. If it's all about letting go of that perception. I think perception it's everything. It's like how you perceive the world, how you understand things. Your perception is how you're busy decoding all this information at you through your eyes, through your taste, through your senses. It's the whole time your brain is just trying to interpret this information. And then because of everything that happens, because of traumas, because of negative things that happen in your life, you build up these perceptions, these walls. That's sometimes other people, like, you don't realize that you're building up a wall about something, because you're holding on to this perception, but then other people can see it because that's what they're looking at. That's how you're responding to them. And what these medicine spaces help you to do is to see where those walls are, to see where the perceptions are, and help you break down those walls and help you let go of those perceptions. And I find there's deep healing when you just accept. There's deep healing when you let go of those things that you hold so dear. We all do it, we all hold on to these. More often than not, letting go and letting and just accepting and being grateful for anything that you see is the key.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's only actually one way, and that is, people keep thinking that in order to be happier, in order to be to have a better experience, in order to have a more spiritual experience, in order to have this better feeling, I need to be more. I need to do more. I need to output more. I need to experience more. I need to be more. And most importantly, I have to become better. And the irony of that is that if there's one thing that I teach, it's that actually there's only one thing that you have to do, and that's to let go of more stuff. And that's letting go of the ideas that you hold to be true, that keep you stuck in the understanding that is keeping you unhappy. You're not becoming more. You don't have to be a better person. You don't have to even be a different person. Just let go of the ideas that keep you stuck in thinking that you're not enough. And in order to do that, in the way that I work, you have to know what those ideas are so that you can look at them and say, actually, turns out these are complete bullshit. And by holding on to them, I'm staying unhappy. I'm staying in suffering. I'm staying in the state. And when you see them with somebody guiding you, they are so patently bullshit. You look and you go, how did I ever believe that was true? How did I ever believe that the self-judgment was helpful, or that being a better person was going to make me feel better about myself? How did I ever believe that to be true? And yet we hold them so tightly until we see them as garbage. And then suddenly, just being able to see that is rubbish frees us. And insight can come so quickly and so profoundly.
Absolutely.
With a simple little twist of your understanding. And that's actually what I love about personal development, about spiritual growth, about the transformation possibilities of anything, is that you don't have to work that hard at something. It can be instantaneous. It can be so quick and so simple and so easy. You just have to see something differently, just like that, and you're done. And that is an adventure, if there ever was one. So, when you said to me originally when I did that experience with you, you said, how are you feeling? Are you nervous? And I was like, hell no, I can't wait, because for me, it's just, what am I going to learn? What am I going to see differently? I can't wait to see something differently, because my entire journey and everything that's ever helped me to feel better about life has been about seeing something differently. I'm so happy to let go of an old crap idea. I can't wait to get, show me another run that I need to let go of. I can't wait to let go of it. So that's really interesting. What I would like to know from you, I know that there's legal issues around mushrooms. I don't know what the legal issues around ayahuasca and chango are. I know that they're not street, you can't buy them over an counter. Tell me about that. What are we going to do about this? How is this going to change in the future? And what are the actual legal issues right now?
Recently there'd been quite a bit of attention. There was a Client Lodge episode about a woman in Cape Town that was recently. She had a mushroom ceremony at her house, and one of the somehow left during the ceremony and went to the police station. And the next minute she was being arrested. And there were subsequent court cases that happened after that, and obviously the laws need to change. That there's a huge difference between recreational drug taking and plant medicine, us being in Southern, our cops have bigger problems, especially at the moment. So to the large extent, we there's also the traditional aspect that also allows us a little bit of leeway. So, if plant medicine facilitators are treated in traditional settings as sangomas or nyangas, for the most part, those perceptions are somewhat sympathetic to our cause. But the reality of the situation is that, yes, these things are illegal, especially in this country. But I also feel worldwide that people's perceptions are changing. It's usually in Europe where the laws are changed first there, and then that sort of trickles down. And you can definitely see it with regards to marijuana. How in the States mostly it's legal to consume marijuana now, and it's in certain European countries and even in Uruguay. They've shown that taking the ban off some of these substances can be hugely beneficial to the people living in that country and the people that choose to practice in. I mean, obviously there are plenty of narcotics that are hugely harmful to people, but and sometimes I have to admit as well that even psychedelics in the wrong hands and can be harmful. But on the flip side to that, if if things like ceremony can be allowed, if things like guided plant medicine taking can be allowed, then there can be huge benefits and huge healing. Healing that to some people might not be obtained through psychologists or psychiatrists, or the legal ways that the government is deeming that we are problems. With things like the internet and with technology nowadays, we have suddenly been given access to the world's views and the world's idea of healing and of obviously things like ayahuasca. It's traditionally a South American brew. It's traditionally done by the Shipibos in South America, and a lot of people have the views that if you're going to do traditional medicines, that you have to go there and do it there. And I'm of the view of if it's easily accessible to you, then it can heal more people. Not everyone can afford to go to an ayahuasca retreat and pay 40,000 rand, to get the healing that they could get. Whereas there are means and there are ways, to do it safely and to do it with the right intentions in the right space, and being guided by the right people. And without incriminating myself, hopefully, I'd like to stand up and be an advocate and explain to the world like how hugely beneficial plant medicines have been for me, and how hugely beneficial it's been for countless people that I facilitate for. I take great pride and really try my best to create respectful spaces, respect the original traditions and the Shipibo ways, and we learn the songs, and we try our best to create the best possible space for the healing to happen. And I feel like I should be labeled a criminal for doing it, but sometimes in life, again, that little bit of courage can, really go a long way. And sometimes, if I held on to those laws and held on to those ideas, I wouldn't have got very far. Sometimes it takes you benefits in order for you to find yourself in a ayahuasca ceremony, and I mean, it's strange. Like sometimes ayahuasca in particular has a way of finding the people that is right for it. And I've sat in ceremonies with 14-year-old girls, and I've sat in ceremony with 80-year-old women that have never done anything in their lives, never had a drink of alcohol, but yet you find them sitting across from you in an ayahuasca ceremony, and there's plenty of things like that have changed my perception to make me realize that, these laws are there to protect me, but I think some of them are to stop me from healing. If that's an old school way of thinking, then the new school people need to stand up and change those. And I think it is changing.
Well, I think that's wonderful, because I've done a lot of research, a lot of reading. I've seen a lot of videos. I've seen a lot of testimonial stories about people who have experienced these things and just come out the other side really, really helped, really healed, they do a lot of work actually at the Mayo Clinic with mushrooms around cancer patients who are terminal. And it's a very hard diagnosis to know that you are terminal. And they have done a lot of research about just one single session with mushrooms with a psychiatrist or psychologist or a therapist of some kind, and how these people go from having this experience of this terminal cancer and living as though they're dying to having this experience of terminal cancer and living until they die. And that is really precious. And they couldn't get it through talk therapy, and they couldn't get it any other way. And that one experience with the plant medicine gives them the opportunity to live their lives more fully and to experience more fully their capacity to be connected and to be alive while they're alive. And that to me is really beautiful. And it's a crying shame that that's not more readily available and that they're not hurrying up already with this research. I mean, we're in such a rush to get the vaccine out for COVID. Well, these plant medicines are proving to be really, really amazing. I think we need to put our foot on the accelerator here to really make use of these things, because there's never been a more mentally ill society than we have in this day and age. I mean, you always hear the stats coming out of America when you see all the videos and whatnot and the research that's been done. Like a good 60% of all Americans are on antidepressants. And probably a good portion of those people are on anti-anxieties. And that is not how our society should be living. And if there's something that can help us, we need to really put our foot on it. But we won't go into why that's not happening. That's, kind of sad, but it is starting to come around. And, I think that it's a movement that will not be stopped, to be honest. Now that there's so much availability to research, now that there's so much conversation around it, now that the conversation is becoming something that that people are talking about over the dinner table, it's going to be a rolling stone. It's not going to be stoppable. And because it's not ayahuasca, for instance, is not a drug that gets used recreationally. And so it's starting up a conversation about healing with psychedelics that previously were considered to be just party drugs, and good people don't do that. So there's now the conversation around what these drugs can do for us, for our lives in a healing way, is really opening up, and it can't be stopped. And we just need to push it along a little quicker so that it can be more useful in a powerful held environment that can really be useful for people. So I salute you for the work you do, and thank you very much for having this conversation with me. It's been really, really interesting. And to you, blessings. So I think, guys, those of you who've been watching, let's just tell you a little bit about what Chris and I do. Chris, can you just talk about your business, just 5-second overview? What is the kind of things that you do that people can come to you for in terms of their own personal growth and healing journey?
We offer various plant medicines, like the ones that I mentioned, but we also do. I run Akash healing with my partner, Karen. She also does Pachamama yoga, which is a Akasha healing. We do weekly Wednesday meditations, various workshops, from everything from vegan cooking to dream catcher making to singing circles. Not all the things that we do are the hardcore medicine spaces, because I think all of these things have healing aspects to them. They all have connected clues within one another that help you along your path, and we're definitely an advocate of all the different things that we and sometimes we do retreats, sometimes we do San Pedro hikes. Just in Modderfontein was enough off.
Okay, well, it's not a good time to have lost. So, Chris, just have a look. I've written down the
There is something I just wanted to add. I realized that I'd mentioned in the beginning of my talk. I moved away from religion.
we've lost you, unfortunately. Your sound is not coming through properly. All right, so we've lost Chris's voice, unfortunately. You can check him out on Akasha Healing on his website.
Sorry, what was that?
Yeah, so we lost your voice connection. You're back again. Speak to me. No? Okay. Yeah, his internet connection has failed us. You can check out Akasha Healing on the internet. I think I've spelled it correctly down the bottom on the little ticker tape. So that's what Chris does. The meditations, there's hikes, there's ayahuasca ceremonies, there's DMT ceremonies, there's all sorts of things that you can go and explore and investigate with him. And I think the wonderful thing about Chris is, from my experience, is that when I spoke to him about having one of these plant medicine trees, he really guided me in the right direction. So he's going to be the guy to talk to you about
connection stroke.
Yeah, your connection's gone. Don't speak anymore because it pops in and out. So, but you can go and find him there. And then if you want to look at doing a program for self-development, self-transformation, and that kind of thing, that is what I do. And you can find me at Cloud9. And I'll put a little banner at the bottom regarding that. Cloud9.co.za is my web address, and you can see all the things that I do in regards to helping you to have a greater sense of yourself, a greater sense of self-love, an ability to be at peace and calm and pleasure in life, and just learn to have happiness and joy in general, so that you can have that experience from me. So thank you very much for joining us. Chris will put his details at the bottom of the Facebook feed. He will share this to his Facebook page. I will put my details at the bottom, and you can go and check us out on our various websites. Have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for joining us.